Jake Morrison pressed his nose against the cold window of the spaceship. Stars moved past like tiny dots of light. He had never seen so many stars before. Back on Earth, the city lights made it hard to see them at night. Look at that one. Jake pointed to a bright blue star. His little sister Emma crawled over to see. She was only 6 years old, but she was not scared of flying in space. Emma thought everything was exciting. It looks like a marble, Emma said. She carried her old teddy bear everywhere. The brown bear was missing one eye, but Emma loved it anyway. She called it Mr. Buttons. Alex Carter sat in the seat behind them. He was 10 years old and tried to act grown up. But Jake could see that. Alex was excited too. Alex kept reading the same page in his book about alien planets. Dr. Lisa Hayes walked down the narrow path between the seats. She was their teacher and guide. Dr. Hayes had studied aliens for many years. She knew how to talk to them and understand their ways. "Are you three ready for this adventure?" Dr. Hayes asked with a smile. She sat down next to them. "Will the alien kids be scary?" Emma asked. She hugged Mr. Buttons closer. Dr. Hayes thought for a moment. "They will look different from us. They are bigger and have sharp teeth. But remember, they are still children just like you." Jake had seen pictures of the Zephyrians in school. They looked like giant cats that could walk on 2 legs. They had golden fur and yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. Their claws were as long as his fingers. "Why did they choose us?" Alex asked. This was not the first time he had asked this question. "Because you three are special," Dr. Hayes said. "You are kind and smart. You make friends easily. The space government thinks you can help humans and Zephyrians understand each other better." Jake remembered the day they told him he was picked for this trip. Thousands of kids had tried to get chosen. They had to take tests and talk to many adults. Jake was good at the tests, but he thought they picked him because he was nice to everyone. Emma was picked because she was fearless and happy. She could make anyone smile. Alex was the smartest kid they knew. He could learn new languages fast and remember everything he read. The spaceship was not very big. It had 20 seats and a small kitchen. The pilot was a robot that never got tired. Jake liked watching the robot work. Its metal hands moved very fast over the controls. "How long until we get there?" Emma asked. 2 more days, Dr. Hayes said. "The Zephyrian school is very far away. It floats above a planet with poisonous air." Jake tried to imagine a city floating in the sky. On Earth, all the cities were on the ground, but aliens could build amazing things that humans could not build yet. "Tell us about the school again," Alex said. He loved hearing about new places. Dr. Hayes pulled out her tablet and showed them pictures. "The Zephyrian Academy is the best school in this part of space. Only the children of very important aliens go there. The building is made of white stone that glows in the dark. It has gardens with plants from 100 different worlds. The pictures showed huge rooms with tall windows. Strange plants grew in pots along the walls. Everything looked much bigger than human buildings. The alien children learn many things," Dr. Hayes continued. "They study math, science, and history, just like you do on Earth. But they also learn how to hunt and fight. It is part of their culture." Jake felt a little worried about that. What if the alien kids wanted to practice hunting on humans? But Dr. Hayes had told them many times that the young Zephyrians were not dangerous. They were still learning to control their wild nature. "What if they don't like us?" Emma asked. "Then we will show them how wonderful humans can be," Dr. Hayes said. "We will be kind and helpful. We will share our toys and games with them." Emma looked down at Mr. Buttons. "Do you think they have teddy bears?" "I don't think so," Dr. Hayes said. "But I bet they would like to see yours." Alex closed his book and looked out the window. "My mom packed cookies for me to share with them. Do you think aliens like chocolate chip cookies?" "Everyone likes chocolate chip cookies," Jake said. This made Emma giggle. The pilot robot turned around and spoke in its flat voice. "We will arrive at the space station in 47 hours and 23 minutes. Jake felt butterflies in his stomach. Soon they would meet real aliens. Not just pictures or videos, but real living creatures from another world. Some were bigger than grown-up humans. Some had powers that humans did not have. But Jake was not really scared anymore. He had Emma and Alex with him. Dr. Hayes would take care of them. And maybe, just maybe, they would make some new friends. I wonder what games they play, Emma said. I wonder what their food tastes like, Alex said. I wonder if they will teach us to climb walls like they do, Jake said. Dr. Hayes smiled. You will find out soon enough. But remember, you are not just students on this trip. You are ambassadors for all of humanity. The alien children will learn about humans by watching you three. That made Jake feel important and nervous at the same time. He wanted to make humans look good. He wanted the alien kids to think humans were brave and kind and smart. Emma fell asleep holding Mr. Buttons. Alex went back to reading his book. Jake kept looking out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was their new school and their new alien classmates. The adventure was just beginning. The space station was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. It looked like a giant silver wheel spinning slowly in space. Hundreds of windows dotted its surface like tiny eyes. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like busy bees. Welcome to Kepler Station, Dr. Hayes said as their small ship docked. From here we take a shuttle down to the academy. Jake, Emma, and Alex pressed against the windows to see everything. The station was full of aliens walking around. Some looked like giant insects. Others had blue skin and too many arms. A few looked almost human but with strange colored hair. So many different types, Alex whispered. A tall figure waited for them at the docking port. Jake's heart jumped. It was their first real look at a Zephyrian adult. The alien stood almost 8 feet tall. Golden fur covered his body. His yellow eyes seemed to glow as they watched the humans approach. I am Headmaster Kexthar, the alien said in a deep, growling voice. His accent was thick, but Jake could understand him. You are the human younglings. Yes, sir, Dr. Hayes said politely. These are Jake, Emma, and Alex. Emma stepped forward with no fear at all. She looked up at the huge alien and smiled. Hi, do you want to see my teddy bear? Headmaster Kexthar looked down at the tiny human girl. His ears twitched, which Jake learned later meant he was confused. No one had ever offered to show him a toy before. That is, not necessary, the headmaster said slowly. The shuttle ride to the academy was amazing. They flew down through purple clouds toward a floating city. The buildings were white and seemed to shine with their own light. Gardens and parks filled the spaces between the buildings. It looked like something from a fairy tale. The academy has been here for over 300 years, Headmaster Kexthar explained. The best young minds in the galaxy study here. Jake could see alien children playing in the courtyards below. They ran and jumped in ways that human kids could never do. Some climbed straight up the walls of buildings. Others leaped from roof to roof like it was nothing. Will we be able to do that? Emma asked, pointing at a young Zephyrian hanging upside down from a tree branch. Perhaps with practice, the headmaster said. Jake thought he saw the alien smile, but it was hard to tell with all those sharp teeth. The academy building was even more beautiful up close. Tall towers reached toward the sky. Wide windows let in the purple light from the alien sun. Strange plants with silver leaves grew in neat rows along the walkways. Your sleeping rooms are in the west wing, Headmaster Kexthar said as they walked through marble hallways. You will share classes with Junior Group 7. They are approximately your age. Jake tried to remember everything Dr. Hayes had taught them about Zephyrian culture. Be polite but not weak. Show respect but do not bow. Never run away from them, even if scared. Running triggered their hunting instincts. They stopped at a large door made of dark wood. Voices could be heard from inside. Young voices, but deeper and rougher than human children. Your new classmates, the headmaster said. He pushed open the door. The room fell silent. 7 young Zephyrians turned to stare at the humans. Even the young ones were bigger than Alex, who was the tallest human child. They had the same golden fur and glowing eyes as the adults, but their faces were rounder and softer. Class, these are our new students from Earth, Headmaster Kexthar announced. Jake, Emma, and Alex will be studying with you for the next several months. None of the alien children spoke. They just stared with curiosity and something that might have been hunger. Jake felt his heart beating fast. "Why are they so small?" one of the young Zephyrians asked. He was bigger than the others and had scars on his arms. Later, Jake learned his name was Rixtar. "Different species develop at different rates," the headmaster explained. "These humans are the same age as you, despite their size." A female cub with bright green eyes stepped forward. "I am Nixara," she said carefully. "Welcome to our school." Emma bounced forward with her teddy bear. "I'm Emma. This is Mr. Buttons. He's very friendly." The young Zephyrians looked at the stuffed animal with confusion. They had never seen anything like it. One of the smallest cubs, who looked nervous and shy, crept closer. "What is its purpose?" the small cub asked in a whisper. "He's for hugging when I'm scared or lonely," Emma explained. "Do you want to touch him?" The small cub looked around nervously at his classmates, then slowly reached out one clawed finger to touch the soft brown fur. His eyes widened with surprise. "It is soft," he said with wonder. "And warm." "That's Zorfin," Nixara explained to the humans. "He is the youngest in our class." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Jake, and this is Alex. We're excited to learn about your world." "Can you hunt?" Rixtar asked bluntly. "Not like you can," Jake admitted. "But we know how to find food and make shelter. We learned different skills on Earth." "Show us," another cub challenged. Alex pulled his backpack around and opened it. He took out a small device that looked like a compass. "This helps us find our way when we're lost in the woods," he explained. "And this is a whistle that makes a loud sound to call for help." The young Zephyrians gathered around to look at the human tools. They had never seen anything so small and clever. Their own hunting tools were all claws and teeth and strength. "We brought something else too," Emma announced. She dug in her backpack and pulled out a package of chocolate chip cookies that Alex's mother had made. "Want to try some?" The alien cubs had never seen cookies before. They sniffed them carefully. Zorfin was the first to try one. His eyes went wide and he made a happy purring sound. "It is sweet," he announced, "and it has little brown pieces that taste wonderful." Soon all the cubs were trying cookies. Even Rixtar, who had seemed unfriendly at first, asked for a second one. "These are amazing," Nixara said. "What do you call them?" "Cookies," Emma said, proudly. "My friend's mom made them special for our trip." The rest of the day was spent showing the humans around the academy. They saw classrooms with floating desks and libraries with books that read themselves out loud. The gymnasium had equipment for climbing and jumping that no human school could have. At dinner, the young Zephyrians shared their food with the humans. It was mostly meat, but they had fruits and vegetables from their homeworld too. Everything tasted different but good. "Tomorrow you start regular classes," Nixara explained. "We study mathematics, galactic history, and survival skills." "Survival skills?" Alex asked. "How to hunt, track prey, and fight enemies," Rixtar said proudly. Emma looked worried for the first time. "We don't know how to fight." Zorfin, who had been quiet most of the day, spoke up. "I am not good at fighting either. Maybe we can help each other learn different things." Jake smiled. Maybe this was going to work out after all. The alien cubs were different from human children, but they were still just kids. They were curious and playful and wanted to make friends. As they got ready for bed in their new rooms, Emma hugged Mr. Buttons tight. "I think they like us," she whispered to her teddy bear. Jake agreed. This was only the first day, but it felt like the beginning of something wonderful. 3 weeks had passed since the human children arrived at the academy. Jake woke up each morning excited to see his new alien friends. Emma had taught Zorfin how to play patty cake, and the shy little Zephyrian loved the simple hand game. Alex spent hours showing Nixara how to solve math problems the human way. The alien cubs were teaching them things too. Rixtar showed Jake how to climb walls using just his fingertips. Emma learned to jump much higher by watching how the cubs bent their legs. Alex discovered he could hear much better if he cupped his ears like the Zephyrians did. On this particular morning, dark clouds swirled around the floating academy. The purple sky looked angry and full of lightning. Jake pressed his face against the classroom window and watched the storm grow stronger. "Atmospheric disturbance approaching," announced the school's computer voice. "All students remain in designated safe areas." Their teacher, Miss Veltar, continued the history lesson about ancient space wars. But Jake noticed that even she kept glancing at the windows. The storm was getting worse. Suddenly the lights flickered. A deep rumbling sound came from somewhere below them. The floating city shook slightly like a boat on rough water. "What was that?" Emma asked, holding Mr. Buttons tighter. Before anyone could answer, bright red lights began flashing throughout the building. A loud siren wailed 3 times. "Emergency protocol activated," the computer announced. "Gravitational stabilizers offline. All sections sealing for safety." Miss Veltar's fur stood up on end. Jake had learned this meant Zephyrians were scared or alert. "Students, remain calm," she said, but her voice shook. Heavy metal doors slammed shut all around the school. The windows darkened as protective shields covered them. Jake heard the hiss of airlocks engaging. They were trapped in the educational wing. "The storm must have damaged the engines that keep us floating," Alex said. He had read about how the academy stayed in the sky. "If they can't fix it quickly, we might fall toward the planet." The planet below had poisonous air that would kill anyone who breathed it. The academy was safe as long as it stayed high in the atmosphere. But if they crashed? Miss Veltar tried to contact the adult Zephyrians in other parts of the school, but her communicator only made static sounds. "The emergency barriers are blocking all signals," she said with worry. "Are we going to die?" Zorfin whispered. His yellow eyes were wide with fear. "No," Emma said firmly. She walked over and patted his furry arm. "We'll figure something out." But Jake could see that Miss Veltar was very scared. She kept pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Her claws kept extending and retracting without her meaning to do it. Then another rumbling sound shook the building, much stronger this time. Books fell off shelves. Desks slid across the floor. Through the tiny gaps in the window shields, Jake could see they were definitely falling toward the planet. Miss Veltar suddenly made a strangled growling sound. Her eyes went completely wild. "Must protect the cubs," she snarled. "Threat everywhere. Must fight." Jake realized with horror that the teacher was losing control. Dr. Hayes had warned them about this. When Zephyrians got too scared or stressed, their ancient hunting instincts took over. They became dangerous to everyone around them, even their own young. "Miss Veltar, please stay calm," Alex said carefully, but it was too late. The teacher's claws extended fully. She looked around the room with wild eyes, searching for enemies that were not there. Her body crouched low, ready to attack anything that moved. The 7 young Zephyrians began to panic. They had never seen an adult lose control like this. Zorfin started crying. Nixara and 2 other cubs backed against the wall. Rixtar's own claws came out as his body prepared to fight or run. "Everyone needs to be very still," Jake whispered to his human friends. "Don't make any sudden moves." But Emma was already walking toward the frightened alien cubs. "It's okay," she said, in her gentle voice. "We're all scared, but we can help each other." "Emma, be careful," Alex warned. Miss Veltar spun toward Emma's voice with a snarl. But something strange happened. Instead of attacking, she stopped and tilted her head. Emma was humming a soft lullaby, the same song their mother used to sing when they were scared at night. The sweet, peaceful sound seemed to cut through the teacher's panic. Her breathing slowed down a little. Her claws pulled back slightly. "Keep singing," Jake whispered to Emma. "It's working." Emma sat down on the floor and patted her lap. Zorfin crawled over and curled up next to her, still holding Mr. Buttons. She kept humming while she gently petted his fur. Alex understood what Jake was thinking. They needed to keep everyone calm until the adults could rescue them. He started looking through the emergency supplies that every classroom had. "I found water and food bars," Alex announced quietly, "and some basic first aid stuff." Jake began organizing the supplies like they had learned in camping class back on Earth. He divided the food equally and made sure everyone got some water. The simple, Normal activities seemed to help the scared cubs feel better. In my camping group, we always told stories when we were scared, Jake said. Would you like to hear one? Nixara nodded. She was trying to be brave, but Jake could see she was shaking. Jake told them about a human story where brave children got lost in a forest but found their way home by working together. Emma added parts about talking animals. Alex explained how the children used stars to navigate. Slowly, the alien cubs began to relax. They moved closer to the humans. Even Rixtar, who always acted tough, sat down near Jake to listen. Miss Veltar was still not normal, but she had stopped looking like she wanted to attack everyone. She sat in a corner watching the group with confused eyes. Why do the soft ones not panic? She mumbled to herself. Why do they make the cubs calm? Another shake ran through the building. They were still falling, but more slowly now. Maybe the engineers were getting some control back. Are we going to crash? One of the cubs asked. I don't think so, Alex said. Feel how the shaking is different now? They're slowing our fall. The emergency systems are working. Emma had stopped humming but kept gently petting Zorfin and the other cubs who had gathered around her. My dad always says that when bad things happen, the most important thing is to stay together and take care of each other. What if no one comes to help us? Nixar asked. Then we'll figure out how to help ourselves, Jake said confidently. We have water and food, we have each other. We're smart and brave. But we're just children, Rixtar said. Sometimes children can do amazing things when they have to, Emma said, especially when they work together. Hours passed. The building stopped shaking so much. The air still felt tense and strange, but it seemed like the worst danger had passed. The human children took turns telling stories, sharing food, and keeping their alien friends calm. Miss Veltar had fallen asleep in her corner, exhausted from her panic. The young Zephyrians huddled together with the humans like one big family. I never thought small creatures like humans could be so brave, Nixara said quietly. We learned it from our parents, Jake explained. They taught us that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you are scared. Outside their sealed room, they could hear the sounds of repair work beginning. Adult voices called to each other in the hallways. The emergency was ending, but none of them would ever forget how the 3 human children had kept everyone safe and calm when their whole world was falling apart. And somewhere in the school, alarms were automatically sending emergency signals across space to worried parents on distant worlds. Far across space on the Zephyrian homeworld, war leader Thexara was planning his next military campaign when the emergency signal reached him. The message was short but terrible. Academy in danger, children trapped, unknown casualties. His daughter Nixara was at that academy. Thexara was not just any Zephyrian warrior. He was a legend among his people. Stories told of how he could track a single enemy across 3 star systems, how he could smell fear from miles away, how he had never lost a hunt in his entire life. His massive claws dug into the metal table as he read the message again. His golden eyes blazed with a fury that made his aid warriors step back in fear. Prepare my ship, he growled in a voice that shook the walls. Now, Thexara's personal warship was built for speed and destruction. It was painted black like the space between stars. Weapons covered its hull like the spines on a deadly creature. No enemy had ever survived an encounter with it. The journey to Kepler 442b usually took 3 days. Thexara made it in 18 hours, pushing his ship's engines beyond their safety limits. Every minute his daughter remained in danger was a minute too long. As he flew through space, his warrior mind imagined every possible threat. Pirates who had attacked the Academy for ransom, enemy aliens trying to steal military secrets, monsters from the poisonous planet below that had somehow reached the floating city. Whatever had dared to threaten his child would die screaming. When he reached the Academy, the sight that greeted him made his blood burn with rage. The beautiful, floating city was damaged and dark. Emergency ships swarmed around it like insects. He could smell the fear and panic from space. But worse than all of this was a strange scent that his hunter nose detected, an alien smell he had never encountered before. Foreign predators were near his daughter. War leader, the Academy officials say the emergency is over. His ship's communication officer reported. They are requesting that you dock normally and wait for an escort. Thexara's response was a roar that made the ship's hull vibrate. I do not wait when my cub is in danger. He piloted his ship directly to the Academy's hull and used his vessel's cutting lasers to burn through the outer wall. Alarm screamed as he breached the city's defenses, but he did not care. He was no longer thinking like a civilized being. He was thinking like the ancient apex predator that lived in every Zephyrian's blood. Thexara's massive frame barely fit through the Academy's hallways as he stalked toward the educational wing. His enhanced senses painted a picture of what had happened. The scent of terror hung in the air like smoke. His daughter's smell was there, along with that of other cubs, and everywhere that strange alien odor that made his hunting instincts scream warnings. Adult Zephyrians tried to stop him and explain the situation, but he brushed past them like they were leaves in a hurricane. Nothing mattered except reaching his daughter and destroying whatever had threatened her. War leader, please wait, Headmaster Kexthar called as he chased after the massive warrior. The situation is under control. The emergency is over. But Thexara could still smell fear and stress. The emergency might be over, but his daughter was still frightened. Something had scared her badly enough to trigger the deep panic responses he could detect in the air. He followed the scent trail through corridors and down stairways. His claws left deep scratches in the walls as he moved. His yellow eyes glowed with a light that made even the bravest Academy guards step aside. The trail led to the educational wing, where thick emergency barriers had sealed off entire sections. Thexara could hear young voices beyond the barriers. His daughter's voice was among them, but there were other voices too. Voices speaking in a language he did not recognize. The alien predators were still with the cubs. With a roar of rage, Thexara extended his claws to their full length and began slicing through the emergency barrier. The metal was thick and strong, designed to protect against disasters. But it was not designed to stop a Zephyrian war leader protecting his child. His claws cut through the barrier like it was made of soft clay. Sparks flew as he tore apart the safety systems. Behind him, Headmaster Kexthar and a crowd of adults tried to explain what had really happened, but their voices were just noise to his hunter-focused mind. The human children saved them, the headmaster was saying. They kept the cubs calm during the crisis. They are heroes, not threats. But Thexara was beyond hearing words. Every instinct he had told him that foreign predators had cornered helpless cubs. His daughter was in there with unknown creatures that could have hurt her, or killed her. The final layer of the barrier gave way with a screech of torn metal. Thexara burst through into the classroom beyond, his massive frame filling the doorway. His claws were fully extended. His fangs were bared. Every muscle in his powerful body was coiled to strike. He was ready to destroy anything that had dared to threaten the young. But what he saw in that room stopped him as completely as if he had run into a solid wall. In the center of the room, 3 tiny alien creatures sat surrounded by 7 young Zephyrians. The alien creatures were smaller than Zephyrian cubs with soft skin and no visible claws or fangs. They looked completely helpless. But the young Zephyrians were not cowering in fear or nursing wounds. Instead, they were gathered around the small aliens like they were protecting them. His own daughter, Nyxara, was closest to the smallest alien creature. The littlest alien, a female with light-colored fur on her head, looked up at him without any fear in her large eyes. She was holding some kind of soft brown object that looked like it might be a tool or weapon, but she made no move to threaten him with it. "Hello?" the small alien said in clear galactic standard. "Are you Nyxara's daddy? She told us you were very strong and brave." Thexara's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. These were not predators. They were not threats. They were barely larger than newborn cubs, and they spoke with gentle voices that held no challenge or aggression. His daughter moved slightly, in front of the small female alien, not in fear of her father, but as if she was protecting the tiny creature from possible harm. "Father," Nyxara said with quiet dignity, "these are our friends. They kept us safe when we were scared." The other cubs nodded in agreement. Little Zorfin, the smallest and weakest of the class, crawled closer to one of the alien creatures and showed no fear at all. "The soft ones made the scary feelings go away," Zorfin said, holding up the brown object that the alien female had given him. "When teacher got wild mind and we were all afraid, they told us stories and shared their food." Thexara's enhanced senses, so perfectly designed for hunting and war, told him things that his civilized mind was struggling to accept. These small creatures had no scent of aggression or predation. Instead, they smelled of kindness and protectiveness. They had been taking care of the cubs, not threatening them. The largest of the three aliens, a male with brown fur on his head, stood up slowly with his hands visible and empty. "Sir, my name is Jake Morrison," the young human said formally. "This is my sister Emma and our friend Alex. We're exchange students from Earth. We were here when the emergency happened, and we tried to help keep everyone calm until the adults could rescue us." Thexara looked around the room with new eyes. He saw emergency supplies carefully organized and shared. He saw cubs who were calm and unharmed. He saw small aliens who had faced a crisis not with violence or panic, but with courage and care. His hunting instincts, so perfect for detecting danger, now told him something that shook him to his core. These tiny creatures were not predators at all. They were protectors. Thexara stood frozen in the doorway, his massive frame blocking out most of the light from the hallway. His claws were still extended, his muscles still coiled for battle. But his mind was struggling to understand what he was seeing. These small creatures showed no fear of him. Any sensible prey animal should be running or cowering. Instead, the tiny female was still looking at him with curious, friendly eyes. She held up the brown object in her arms. "This is Mr. Buttons," Emma said, cheerfully. "He's my teddy bear. Would you like to meet him?" Thexara had fought across a dozen worlds. He had faced creatures that could tear apart starships with their bare hands. But he had never encountered anything like this small being who offered to introduce him to her toy while he stood before her with claws that could slice through steel. "Emma," Alex whispered carefully, "maybe we should give him some space." But Emma was already walking toward the massive warrior. Nixara moved to intercept her, not to stop the human child, but to stay between her friend and any possible danger. "It's okay, Nix," Emma said gently. "He's your daddy. Daddies don't hurt kids." She stopped just in front of Thexara and held up Mr. Buttons so he could see the worn teddy bear clearly. "See? He only has one eye, but he's still very nice. He helps me not be scared when everything is dark or loud." Thexara looked down at the tiny creature who barely reached his knee. His enhanced senses told him things about her that made no sense. She had been scared during the emergency. He could smell the old fear that had soaked into her clothes, but she had not run away. She had not hidden. Instead, she had stayed to comfort others who were more frightened than she was. "You were afraid," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. "I can smell it on you." "Yes," Emma admitted without shame. "I was very scared. The whole building was shaking and we thought we might crash. But Zorfin was even more scared than me, so I had to be brave for him." Thexara's yellow eyes found the smallest Zephyrian cub, who was indeed cowering behind Jake. Zorfin had always been the weakest of his age group, the most likely to be left behind if danger came. Yet this tiny alien had chosen to protect him, instead of saving herself. "Why?" Thexara asked. It was the question that burned in his warrior mind. Why protect cubs that are not your own? Why risk yourself for aliens you barely know? Jake stepped forward, moving slowly to show he was not a threat. "Because they're kids, just like us. When kids are scared, grown-ups help them. When grown-ups aren't around, the older kids help the younger ones. That's just what you do." "That's what humans do," Alex added. "We learned it from our parents and teachers. You take care of each other, especially the ones who need help most." Thexara tried to understand this concept. In Zephyrian culture, adults protected cubs, but cubs were expected to learn strength and independence. The weak were often left behind, so the strong could survive. It was the way of predators. But these humans had done the opposite. They had focused their attention on the weakest and most frightened cubs. They had made themselves a shield between the scared children and their fears. "Show me," Texara said suddenly. "Sir?" Jake asked, confused. "Show me what you did. Show me how you kept them calm." Emma brightened immediately. She sat down on the floor and patted her lap. "Zorfin, do you want to show your friend's daddy how we played the quiet game?" Zorfin looked nervously at the massive war leader, then at Emma's encouraging smile. Slowly, he crept over and curled up next to her. Emma began humming the same lullaby she had used during the crisis. Texara watched in amazement as his senses detected the chemical changes in the air. The smell of fear and stress began to fade. The young Zephyrian's breathing became slower and more relaxed. His claws retracted, his muscles unknotted. "How?" Texara whispered. "It's just a song my mom used to sing to me," Emma explained as she gently petted Zorfin's fur. "When people are scared, sometimes music helps them remember that they're not alone." Alex had pulled out the emergency supplies again. "We also made sure everyone had food and water. When people are hungry or thirsty, they get more scared, so we shared everything equally. Even though we were scared too," Jake added. "But when you're taking care of other people, it's easier to be brave." Nixara moved closer to her father. "They told us stories about human children who got lost but found their way home. They said that as long as we stayed together and helped each other, everything would be okay." And it was okay, Rixtar added, surprising everyone. The tough young warrior rarely admitted to any weakness. "I thought we were going to die, but the soft ones, the humans, they made it feel like we were safe." Texara slowly retracted his claws. The predator part of his mind was finally beginning to understand what the civilized part already knew. These were not threats to be eliminated. They were something much more rare and precious. They were protectors who asked for nothing in return. "In all my battles across the galaxy," Texara said slowly, "I have never encountered anything like your species. You have no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons. You are small and weak by any measure of strength I know, yet you face danger not by fleeing or fighting, but by making others feel safe. That's what families do," Emma said simply. "And friends are like family too." Headmaster Kexthar finally caught up and appeared in the doorway behind Texara. He was breathing heavily and looked very worried about what the war leader might have done. "War leader, I tried to tell you," the headmaster began. "The human children are not threats. They are heroes. During the entire crisis, they kept our cubs calm and safe. Without them, the panic could have been much worse." Texara turned to look at the headmaster, then back at the small humans who had somehow tamed his predator instincts with nothing more than kindness and courage. "I owe you an apology," he said to the 3 human children, "and a debt that I do not know how to repay." "You don't owe us anything," Jake said immediately. "We just did what anyone would do." "No," Texara said firmly. "What you did is not what anyone would do. What you did is what your species does, and it is something the galaxy needs to understand." He knelt down on one knee so he was closer to their eye level, though he was still much larger than them. "You have shown me that strength is not only about claws and fangs. Sometimes the greatest strength is in making others feel safe when they are afraid." Emma walked over and patted his massive furry arm. "You're a good daddy, Mr. Texara. Nix told us how much you love her and want to keep her safe. That's the most important job in the whole universe." For the first time in his adult life, the legendary war leader Texara felt tears in his eyes. Later that day, as emergency repairs continued on the academy, Texara sent a message across the galaxy. It went to military leaders, government officials, and educators on hundreds of worlds. "I have discovered something that will change how we think about strength and protection," the message said. "The humans are not just another species to trade with or learn from. They are teachers who can show us new ways to be strong, ways that do not require claws or weapons or fear." The message ended with a formal recommendation that human children be welcomed at schools across the galaxy, not because they needed to learn from other species, but because other species needed to learn from them. And in a small classroom on a floating academy, Three human children continued to play with their alien friends, completely unaware that they had just changed the course of galactic civilization forever. They were too busy teaching Zorfin how to play hide and seek.